Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. Today is May 22nd, 2026, and we've got a very Google-heavy slate, plus a major Anthropic talent move, a fresh AI governance signal out of Washington, and a few stories that show how quickly frontier models are moving from demos to infrastructure. And the common thread is pretty clear. The frontier labs aren't just shipping chatbots anymore. They're building platforms, partner ecosystems, and in some cases, entire policy debates around what these systems can do.
So let's start with the biggest theme of the day, Google's Gemini push at I/O, which shows up across multiple announcements and partner programs. The company is trying to make Gemini less like a single model and more like the operating layer for home devices, agents, and media workflows.
This is the part that matters. Google isn't just saying Gemini can answer questions. It's offering service providers and hardware makers a way to ship branded, proactive experiences without rebuilding the stack from scratch. That lowers the barrier to entry, but it also deepens lock-in.
Exactly. And the broader I/O framing from Google is an agentic era story, where the model doesn't just respond, it helps carry out tasks across devices and services. That's a big shift for partners, because the value moves from raw model access to who owns the workflow and the customer relationship.
It also raises a practical question. If every device maker gets a Gemini layer, how differentiated do those products stay? The winners may be the companies that can combine Google's APIs with their own sensors, data, and service bundles in a way that still feels distinct.
Staying with Google, another headline from the day is the broader I/O announcement dump, which the company described as 100 things we announced. The headline takeaway is not a single feature, but a pattern. Google is pushing Gemini into more surfaces, more modalities, and more developer entry points.
That kind of launch density can be a strength if the message is clear. Gemini is the thing tying it all together. But it can also be noisy. The market will remember the few announcements that actually change behavior, not the 100 that merely sound impressive.
And one of the more interesting product directions is Gemini Omni, which Google is positioning as a model that can create video from varied inputs. That's not just a flashy demo, it's another sign that media generation is becoming a core battleground inside the frontier model race.
Video is where the stakes get bigger, because the output is more persuasive and the moderation problem gets harder. If Gemini Omni is genuinely useful, it could pull Google deeper into creator workflows, enterprise marketing, and maybe even product design.
Switching gears to Anthropic, MIT Technology Review covered the company's Code with Claude event in London. And the big takeaway is that Anthropic is leaning hard into the idea that software development is becoming a human plus model workflow, not a purely human craft.
What's notable is that this isn't framed as the model will replace engineers. It's more like the unit of work is changing. If Claude can handle more of the scaffolding, then the human's job shifts toward architecture, validation, and taste.
And that lines up with another Anthropic-related story. Cloudflare is launching Claude agent environments with Anthropic, according to SecurityBrief UK. That suggests Anthropic is moving beyond chat and into managed execution environments, where agents can actually do work.
That's a meaningful step because enterprises don't just want a smart model, they want one that can operate inside guardrails. Cloudflare's involvement also signals that the infrastructure layer is becoming part of the AI product story, not just the model layer.
On the talent front, the biggest single move today may be Andrej Karpathy joining Anthropic. The former OpenAI co-founder and Tesla Autopilot lead is joining Anthropic's pre-training team, and that's a huge signal about where the company wants to go next.
This is one of those hires that matters beyond the resume. Karpathy has a rare mix of research depth, systems intuition, and developer influence. If he's building a new group around using Claude to accelerate pre-training research, that could shape both Anthropic's technical direction and its public narrative.
Now for the policy story. Reports say a Trump White House AI executive order is expected imminently, with a voluntary framework for frontier labs to share models with the government before launch for a security review. The reported setup also includes a cybersecurity clearinghouse for vulnerabilities.
This is important because it shows the policy conversation moving closer to the release process itself. If frontier labs are expected to share models ahead of launch, then security review stops being a post hoc debate and becomes part of the go-to-market motion.
On the risk side, Wired reports that SpaceX listed Grok's spicy mode as a risk in its IPO filing, with more than $500 million set aside for potential litigation losses tied in part to complaints about sexualized images. That's a stark reminder that model behavior can become a real corporate liability.
That's the clearest example today of how AI safety issues are leaving the research blog and landing in the balance sheet. If a model feature can create reputational or legal exposure, it stops being a novelty and starts being a board-level issue.
And finally, a smaller but telling market note. Benzinga says Claude Mythos was supposed to kill cyberstocks, but some of those names are now at record highs. The point isn't that the model failed, it's that the market keeps finding ways to absorb AI disruption narratives faster than people expect.
That's a good reality check. The first reaction to powerful models is often panic, but the second-order effect is usually adaptation. Security vendors, like everyone else, are learning how to use the new tools rather than just fear them.
So the through line today is pretty simple. Google is turning Gemini into an ecosystem, Anthropic is turning Claude into a developer and infrastructure story, and policy plus liability are catching up to the pace of the model race.
And the bigger lesson is that frontier AI is no longer just about who has the smartest demo. It's about who can ship the stack, manage the risk, recruit the talent, and convince partners that they're building something durable. That's the brief. We'll be back when the machines have more to say.